Hello, everyone. It's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer. And welcome to Wasteland Talks, my weekly talk show where I talk about whatever the hell I want. And it's fresh. It just wrapped up after 6 seasons, and it's time to talk about, in all of its spoiler glory, Better Call Saul. And I got Mike Hilty here to join me to talk about some TV, because who else would be the perfect person to come on and talk about some TV with? Mike, thanks for coming on.
What's up, Shane? How's it going? Happy to be here to talk about Better Call Saul.
Awesome. Would you like to shamelessly plug whatever you'd like to shamelessly plug to the lovely viewers today?
Sure, I love shamelessly plugging stuff. So follow me on Twitter at Hilty_Mike. I've got most of my articles being posted there to some extent or another. You'll see a Better Call Saul 6th season whatever for Scribe coming up the next week or so, and then follow me on Serialized and Letterboxd mhilty24.
Awesome. Yes, and basically what I do in terms of movie content, Mike does in terms of TV. So this is a perfect opportunity to talk about, I'm going to say this very boldly, I think one of the best shows ever on television is Better Call Saul. And I'm also going to say, I personally like this more than Breaking Bad.
Okay. I see where this is going now. I generally agree with both of those statements because of the two series. Breaking Bad had some of like the flashier moments and everything like that, but Better Call Saul had no business being this good. For being a spinoff for Saul Goodman to give him a little bit more agency after he allegedly was supposed to be just a throwaway character, just in a couple episodes of Breaking Bad, just for comedy relief, and for him to somehow find his way to claw his way back into like the series for the long haul, and then to get his own series. Yeah, it's pretty remarkable what Better Call Saul has done for the Breaking Bad universe. And I would say some of the best seasons of television have been Better Call Saul, and some of the best moments of television for sure. If I could choose between which one had like the more defining moments, better season overall, and even just the better acting as well. Yeah, okay. I've convinced myself in your initial yes. I will let it.
I just kind of threw that out there at the beginning because, like, I just feel like this is one of the greatest character studies put on television, and that's what it is. Because, like, that's the thing. Breaking Bad is a very different show than this, and I feel like a lot of people might have been disappointed to watch this initially and be like, "This isn't Breaking Bad." It does have its Breaking Bad moments. It definitely has, because, the crew's all there for the most part, because you have Mike, you have Gus, and even some great additions to this conspiracy of terrible people or misguided individuals in some cases. But the Jimmy McGill, you're right. Jimmy McGill had no right to be this interesting and his journey to be this engrossing and intriguing over the course of 6 seasons. And I find it so fascinating because in the end, it turned out to be the anti-Breaking Bad. Yeah. Because in the end, we see him break good. And like, that's the point in the end of him getting redemption personally. And it didn't have to give you like this over-the-top, obnoxious, melodramatic ending to do that. And it's not a happy ending. Like, how it ends, it's still the shitty situation. But
it's not a happy ending, but it was the right ending.
100%.
For sure. Because given what happens in the end, and in the full interest of spoilers, let's just dive right into it. He gets caught, and he has to pay for it. And keeps you guessing until the very end.
Mhm.
Is he going to worm his way out of this? And you think he's going to figure it out. He's going to find a way because he's done this so many times throughout the course of the entire series. And for him just to say, yep, I did it. This is what I did. I am prepared to take my punishment and go from there. And there was a couple times during those final episodes that I was seriously wondering, this guy's going to get away with it, isn't he? He's just going to straight up get away with it.
Mhm.
But fortunately, that's not what happened. It was a very satisfying is the wrong word for it, but it just felt like it was the right way to go.
I think it's so fascinating because you're right. This series could have been the cautionary tale of like, some bad people just get away with it. Like Breaking Bad wasn't that. Breaking Bad was its tale of consequences, coming back and catching Walt in the end. This is somebody accepting their consequences. Because if he really tried, Jimmy would have gotten out of this. Or let me reframe that. If he really wanted to, Saul Goodman would have gotten out of this. But he decided that he wanted to be Jimmy McGill in the end. And he has that whole elaborate thing in the courtroom just so that he could be there and say his piece, admit to his wrongdoing right in front of Kim. And, they're not going to wind up being together because Jimmy's going to be stuck in prison the rest of his life.
Right.
But he had a respect.
Right.
Again.
Even before that, so in writing my Scribe article for this, I typically do for a show that is done and completed, I do like a top list of things that happen throughout the course of the show. And one of my favorite things of the entire series was in this final season when Kim and Jimmy finally break up. This is it. First of all, give Rhea Seehorn the Emmy right now.
I swear. If they don't,
well,
F them.
Because of eligibility stuff, she's only going to be eligible for the first half of Breaking Bad, of Better Call Saul. The second half will be eligible next year. So if she doesn't win it for the first half of season 6, she definitely should win it for the second half, because the line that just got me, it's like, separately we're okay, but together we're poison. It's like, that you just couldn't have described it any better. And Bob Odenkirk and her just playing off of each other, like throughout the course of the entire series was great, but just that moment between those two was just like, that was devastating to watch, even though it was the right call. This should have happened a long time ago, but just that moment was like, that's rough.
That ripped my heart out. Like, I was like, because what's been interesting is like I get up pretty early in the morning and like I throw on a show and I'm like doing some working out in my house. And like this for a while had been my Tuesday morning, throwing this on AMC Plus and watching this. And I'm just sitting there like, I didn't need this this early.
Not now, yeah.
I didn't need this early in the morning before my day even started. I'm just like, had my heart ripped out.
Right.
Because like, I love them together. But the thing is, they're terrible for each other. And deep down, they know it. And it took Kim finally admitting it. Because like, I think it'd be interesting to think, would Jimmy change to keep her? And I just feel like on some level they just bring out the worst in each other. And
Right.
like Kim definitely, like at the end of season 5, I'm like, oh, something's not right about this.
Hmm.
And the whole first half of this 6th season, them pulling all this crap on Howard was like I want to take a step back and really think, like, in retrospect, how bad was Howard? And it's just like, it was really, to be honest, it was really Chuck
Yeah.
who was so resentful of Jimmy. And we'll definitely talk about, like, one of the biggest things from earlier in the show has to be talking about Michael McKeon in this show.
Right.
But like, I don't like Howard didn't deserve this.
No, he did not deserve this at all. When as soon as you see him in that, first half finale, when you see him going into that apartment and the light flick and the candle flickers, like, this is not going to end well at all for him. Because they've systematically chipped away at all the things that was very important to him. They've perverted the law around him. They've taken all of his, like all the things that represents his status. And the thing that perhaps he was just arguably more concerned about was just not only the status of the firm, but even just his status himself, and his reputation. So when they take all of that away, and they did it just to be jerks about it. There was no good reason to do this besides, well, yeah, this seems like good. It feels like that's something that a group of children would do. And for them to do this, it felt pretty on brand for Saul Goodman. It just felt very way out of character for Kim to do that. But that is the influence that they just have on each other. So I've always been a proponent that it takes two people for a bad idea to exist. One person to say it and one person to listen. So, and that, I look at Howard Hamlin throughout the course of this series as somebody who, trying his best, cares very much about the law and his law firm and everything like that, cares about money, just like a lot of people do. But I feel like he's gotten a bit of a bad rep because you're supposed to hate him because Jimmy hates him for a lot of different things, and he's trying to do right, but it's just too far gone, and he just got a bad rep for that.
Yeah, I feel like what really makes so much sense to me is like Howard is treated more like a brother and gets more respect from Chuck than Jimmy does. And there's this deep-seated resentment. And that's the thing. This is all Jimmy's show. So for most of this time, we hate Howard, like you said, because Jimmy does. And then it takes until this final season for us, because like, how much do we see of his personal life? That scene with his wife was so uncomfortable, and I'm just like, wow, like, this guy's not in a great place. And like, I felt bad for him, and now I'm like, wow, and they're gonna ruin his career, make him out to be a drug addict and all this stuff. And I feel like gets one of the worst, like, disproportionate endings out of anybody, because he was at the wrong place at the wrong time. And because that was, correct me if I'm wrong, that was indeed the ending of part 1, right?
Yeah.
Of Lalo coming in there, which Tony Dalton in this show, speaking of a character that shouldn't have been in this show that much, and him just leaving an impression, but like, that moment where he just kills Howard, you're just like,
oh yes,
oh, it's like, what?
Yeah, that. And kudos to Patrick Fabian as well.
Yes.
Just Patrick Fabian he's had a lot of just smaller roles. And granted, Howard Hamlin is not like a large role. He's like, he's clear second tier character for all of this. But I remember, like, the first time I saw him he was the professor, or like one of the professors in Saved by the Bell, the college series. So he's been doing this a long time.
Wait a minute.
That's right. He was the professor who, it's kind of bad to say this, but he's the one that like kind of like starts dating Kelly before, her and Zach got together.
You know what? Like, I'm trying to remember because like I've watched all the college years. Like I watched all of Saved by the Bell. I'm slowly starting to piece together like that sounds 100% right.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. Patrick Fabian has a very specific look and like cadence and like sound.
Yeah.
And that just blew my mind.
Yeah.
Well, now I got to go back and watch Saved by the Bell the college years. Darn it.
Yeah. You're the first person ever to say that. But yes, Patrick Fabian. It really is a shame that he didn't get any recognition for this season, because this season in particular, where you see him just at the bottom of what he was by the end of this, run for the first half of season 6, it's just, it's pretty devastating. And just for him to not get any recognition, because he's had a very long and diverse career, but this probably would have been his last opportunity for like some form of recognition. And just the fact that he didn't get it just kind of sucks a little. But not as egregious as some of the other people who have deserved recognition on the show for a very long time. But him this past season in particular, that's disappointing.
That's the thing, because like this acting is just top notch, and like we haven't directly talked about, but Bob Odenkirk, what a career made out of, like, he's so memorable as Saul Goodman in Breaking Bad, but this is a whole other level of depth and acting that you get to see. One of the most impressive edits I feel like I've ever seen in television is Kim breaking up with him and then him waking up the next morning years later as Saul Goodman, and you're just like, wow. Like that, it feels like he's just embodied that caricature and that persona. And what's so interesting is in those short couple episodes, like between 2 episodes, you see Jimmy, Saul, and then what the hell's his name when he's like
Gene.
And Gene's a whole other thing. And I was shocked how this ended with those last couple episodes, because like this last season did something very bold. And not to compare shows and beat a dead horse, but I feel like this season knew how to focus on multiple storylines coming to a head in the end, unlike Game of Thrones at the end. Because like nothing felt like I'm going to have one episode throw away, just try to wrap this up the best I can with no planning. Everything felt so meticulous. Yeah. And that's what the show feels like. This was expertly planned throughout the whole entire thing. And, when I first heard that Aaron Paul and Bryan Cranston were coming back, I'm like, how is this going to fit in? And, you worry that this just feels like a shoehorned in. It's like, yo, Mr. White, just thrown in there. But no, there was something interesting that they did with that. And I loved in the last episode the whole time machine thing.
Oh, that was
That's like A
so
plus
good. So good.
writing and thematic threading things together. And honestly, his interaction with Walt might be why I love Better Call Saul more. Because, like, when he asks Walt what he would have done if he could go back, and he's just like, I would have never left that company.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, in the end, that's what it really was about for Walt. And what the true answer for Jimmy is absolutely devastating because he pushed his brother, who, as it turns out, like Chuck was an asshole and resented Jimmy so much. And like he couldn't even find even a tiny bit of himself to be happy for his brother because he was so transfixed on the fact that Jimmy took the easy way out.
Mm-hmm.
And Chuck didn't.
Yeah.
And, you know, I feel like most of us can feel that way when it's like we put in, bust our butts for all this hard work. And like between being a lawyer and being a doctor, that is not something that like just comes overnight unless Jimmy McGill finds a way. And there's that resentment.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so deep seated. And just seeing that last little moment with Michael McKean in the show, because not gonna lie, he's one of my favorite character actors. Like his work as Chuck in this is amazing. I love all of his work with Christopher Guest, doing like Best in Show and, you know, Spinal Tap and just everything with that. And he's still having some success. Like he popped up in a significant role. I think it was the final season of The Good Place, as the guy who has the best chance of making heaven, not living a very good life. And oddly enough, he was Grandpa in the new Rugrats show.
Oh, he was. Oh, okay. Good for him.
I just literally watched that 2 weeks ago. I'm like, wait a minute, that sounds like Michael McKean.
Sounds familiar.
Like Chuck was one of the best characters on this show, and it really came down to it. He was the antagonist of this show because he was everything that Jimmy wishes that he could be, and Chuck resented Jimmy for being everything that he hates about the easy way out. And that dynamic was great.
Hands down, the best moment of this entire series is that scene during Jimmy's bar hearing where Chuck's on the stand and Jimmy gets the best of him. And just the anger and the resentment and just the frustration that you hear that he's in a losing battle because whereas he's somebody that follows the rules and tries to do everything to the best of his abilities, which by the way, I don't understand how what he does isn't like entrapment or anything like that, but that's neither here nor there. Just the fact that Jimmy is somebody who will do whatever it takes to win, even if it means mowing down the people that means the most to him or who are closest to him. That scene, like just when he screams, like, I'm not crazy. It's like, ooh, that buddy, that might be top two things to say. Like if you're kind of a little bit crazy, like come on, man, come on. But the acting and the just performance just was so good in that scene, and it was so tense. And if there was ever a moment where that was probably going to be just the peak of the show, where it's like this was probably make or break. If this would have gone another way, probably wouldn't have gotten Saul Goodman at the end of this, but it didn't go exactly Chuck's way, and he pays the price for it unfortunately, and just I'm also a firm believer the show was never the same without Chuck. It was still great. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know. I really missed Chuck's presence in the later the second half of the show.
I feel like this show got a lot more like Breaking Bad after Chuck's gone, because like that was the whole main dynamic of the show when it really came down to it. Everything else was secondary. Was his dynamic with his brother. And then that void's there, and you fill it with more Gus, more Mike, Laylo coming in. And what's interesting is that carried a lot of this show and some of the best moments in 4, 5. And then I think it took to really the last season again to really loop back around to like, I felt like Howard kind of took that spot of an antagonistic back and forth. And I was a little surprised with how quickly a lot of like the Breaking Bad elements got wrapped up in the last season, because like the big points, Nacho, which what a
way to go out. Like, look, I don't like how he went out. I don't like that he did it. He killed himself. Like, I did not like that. I was secretly hoping that Mike would just kind of just pop him and just be like, look, kid, you did everything you could. Let me do you this one last solid, what nice thing to do, let me just kill you in order to just spare you a lot of this stuff. But just what he says to Hector in particular is like, you're in that chair because of me. Like, whew. Good for you, buddy.
And the conversation with Nacho's dad that Mike has, that is what made Mike the Breaking Bad character that he is, when it's just like, this isn't justice. Like, you just want revenge. And I'm just like,
wow.
Because Mike, out of all of like those Breaking Bad characters, feels like, and after this series, made me even more pissed off what Walt did to him.
I know.
And now, by the end of this, I'm just like, you piece of shit. Right. And like, deep down, I wanted Mike to get out of all of this, because he actually had something to live for, and people who relied upon him. And he was actually finding some semblance of redemption through what he was doing with like his granddaughter and taking care of his daughter-in-law. But like his time machine answer was heartbreaking. I'm just like, and that was the beginning of the episode, right? I'm just sitting there like, this is how it's gonna be.
This is how it's gonna be. Great.
Yep, this is exactly how this is gonna be. And it's just like, at first he was gonna try to stop like his son dying, but him going all the way back and never taking that first bribe, I'm just like,
oof, no.
And that's why he legitimately is, probably through both shows, I think he's my favorite character. Who's in both shows all the way through.
Who's in both shows, yes.
And it's just, and this show gave so much interesting context to him and makes it even more heartbreaking, like I said, to watch what happens to him in Breaking Bad.
Mm-hmm.
And he had every right to not trust Walt. And just like, I think Breaking Bad, I think, is a more challenging show from a morality standpoint, because like there's no redemption or anything with Walt. And like, I feel like it took watching this show to realize how irredeemable he turned out to be.
Yeah.
Because seeing Jimmy being able to be himself in the end and getting rid of Saul Goodman, getting rid of Gene, and just taking ownership of what he's done. And the most tragic thing is what he did to his brother.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that burned him the most. And it's absolutely right, Mike. That's why that's the most important part of this show.
Yeah.
And probably why it feels so different after Chuck's gone.
Mike had some of the best aha moments of this entire series. One of my favorite moments from season 5 in particular, him and Saul they get back from the desert after the shootout and everything like that, which that within itself was just an amazing sequence. But then there's an episode, or there's a part where he goes to Mike and Jimmy goes, I can't believe you're the only one that I have to talk about with this. He's just wondering, like, when is this like feeling going to go away? And Mike then proceeds to go on this, look, like, we all make choices, and they put us on a road. And once you get on that road, you can get off from time to time, but once you're on that road, you can't ever get off. It's just one of those profoundly Mike things to say that just has so much gravity to it and just resonates so much, and just one of those hard-hitting lessons that just Jimmy/Saul just never got through to him. But it was just filled with so much wisdom and such good. I love that moment. I just love that moment so much. And Mike had so many of those great moments throughout the course of this show.
Well, and that's why he never won. That's why he'd go back and never get on that road to begin with. That first bribe, he never got off.
That's how it happened, Jim.
And like, I feel like the one main character we haven't talked about at all is Gus Fring.
Gus.
Which I found it interesting how they utilized him in this series. Because obviously I found that very interesting that his last big moment in this series was he was the one going basically one-on-one with Lalo. And that's how that turned out and got resolved. I'm just like, oh, didn't 100% expect that.
I didn't either. And first of all, one thing that this and Breaking Bad should get a lot of credit for is that this show is beautifully shot.
Yes.
And in particular, that sequence where he cuts off the lights and just it's so good. It's such a cool moment. And the fact that he gets, like, obviously he's gonna survive this, because he obviously gets to a point where he's, the big bad and one of the big bads in Breaking Bad. So that's one of the curses of prequel series and everything like that. It's that some of the stakes aren't there. And of all of the people introduced in this, Lalo is probably the closest to, a true villain in this, where you get to be like, oh, I have no idea what's going on with this person. And I was a little surprised that they killed him. I thought that they could have used a little bit more of that coming back at some point, but the way it happened was pretty cool, unexpected, like you said, and just cool, interesting moment. And just to have them after it happens, just to have Lalo be buried with Howard. Oh, that was just like, oh, that feels dirty. That just feels like throwing more shade at Howard as a person, even though they had nothing to do with what Kim and Jimmy were doing.
Yeah.
That just felt like he was just done even worse after that.
I feel like that's one last bastardization of these stories coming together, and Howard getting thrown out with the filth of everything else that Jimmy was involved with. And it's so interesting because especially after the finale of the 5th season, I thought Lalo was like invincible.
Yeah.
Like how the hell he got out of that whole situation. I'm just like,
I will never know. But yeah,
that felt like one of the most Breaking Bad-ish moments of this show, was because like that's the tension and the suspense and the thrills were never like the main focus of this show, and I don't think they should have been.
No.
But you do get those moments, and that's definitely one of the biggest ones.
Yep.
And I think it's interesting that like that book gets closed just so that we can finish up this show focusing on the things that we really needed to focus on. Like Mike, Gus, Lalo, Nacho all got put out.
Yeah.
Like that story's done. And those last couple episodes was all Jimmy and all Kim. And that's what it was really came down to, and that's how it should end.
I'm curious to hear what you thought of, not like the final, let's take aside like the final 2 episodes where, Jimmy is in Nebraska.
Yeah.
And the culmination of all of these, little vignettes that are at the beginning of all these seasons, to have Jimmy there and just hasn't learned anything. No. Hasn't learned anything at all. And I thought at the beginning of, I can't remember which one. The beginning, it happened at the beginning of season 5 when he first gets recognized in that mall. And he's just like, say it. Like the guy is like, say it. And Jimmy's just like, Better Call Saul. It's like, I thought that was going to be the start of being like, wow, this guy actually feels a little bit of redemption, a little bit. But the first of these black and white episodes where you're just like, this guy has not learned anything. And Chuck was right about him from the start. We knew that Chuck was right about him, but this just gives further proofs. Like, this guy hasn't learned anything from everything that he's been through.
Yeah, I feel like and because of that perfect edit, the second Kim walked out of his life, there's nothing holding him down anymore. Like holding him down to like a moral compass, to some semblance of normality, or just like morally good. He just became Saul Goodman. And, at the end of Breaking Bad, like his part of Breaking Bad, he didn't learn anything.
No.
He's just like on the run.
Mm-hmm.
Robert Forrester getting him out of there.
Vacuum salesman extraordinaire and extractor in the area, Robert Forrester. That was
and if he didn't pass away, he 100% would have been in this last season.
Oh yeah,
last time, and I would have loved seeing him.
But kind of the same thing that you were saying. One of my favorite shots of the last, I think it was episode maybe 11, is when it's the first episode where you see Walt and Jesse, and there's a shot of this grave that has been dug, and you see the grave, and you see Gene, he's laying down in it, and then it just transitions him laying in this bed. Just a perfect metaphor for what he has just become. He's just completely just dead to everything, morally, emotionally, everything like that. And did you think, because the instance that first of all, Carol Burnett is great in
Great
in these
My
episodes.
God.
Did you think a little bit that Saul was going to kill her? He obviously wouldn't have had the backbone to do that, but I think that would have been just an accident waiting to happen about that. And I was a little nervous that he would just go too far with that, but he didn't, thankfully. And yeah, it was just that was a great sequence where she figures out who he is.
If this was Breaking Bad, that would have happened.
Yeah.
Because that would have been the last push. And there's no coming back from that. But, it's Jimmy McGill slipped on out on the run in the dumpster. And that felt much more like Jimmy and what this story should have been. And even bringing back, is it Marie?
I think so. Hank's wife, yeah.
And that was messed up, where he put on his whole sob story, and he's just like how I could convince the jury. I'm like, oh.
The way he says that, he's just like you're going to convince the entire jury, and all he says is, I just need one. That's
and you're
all
just
I need.
And the whole entire vibe of that room just changed because they knew he was right.
Yep.
And it's just and he could have done it. I'm convinced if he actually went to trial, he would have gotten out of that.
Probably.
But that's what makes it so great, and why it's such an important ending is that he chooses not to lean into what he does best, but to do what he realized at that time was best.
Yeah.
And that I love. And God, this, like you said, this show is shot so well. And this is some of the best filmmaking in a TV show. But when she lights that up, and just that poof of color, I'm just like,
oh, snaps to that. Good for you. That was good stuff. Yeah.
And Jimmy's gonna be perfectly fine in prison because everybody in prison loves him.
I know. just on the bus, just going to the prison, they're just like, Better Call Saul. I was just like, oh, that just felt like an extra, because he's gone fully back to Jimmy at that point, and just felt like an extra slap in the face for that, a much deserved slap in the face.
Not that Jimmy didn't deserve any, he deserved all of that,
right?
And it's even just a little at the end, and do you think they see each other after that, or do you think Kim just moves on with her life?
I think she has to move on with her life, because if she has to figure out to some extent or another, because I feel like what's coming for her eventually is that Howard's wife is going to come after her.
Yeah.
To some extent or another. And that's something that was said, that, she pretty much confessed to Howard's wife, which, oh dear Lord, that scene where she confesses, and then the bus ride after that, where she is just sobbing, and it's a combination of she is just utterly angry and upset and humiliated, but also small part of it, a little bit relieved as well. A little bit relieved to get that off of her chest.
Because she's a hollow husk
Mm-hmm.
of Kim Wexler at that point.
Yeah.
And that's one of the sad, because like I just, theories galore about what was going to happen in this final season of Better Call Saul, because it was all about the characters who aren't in Breaking Bad.
Mm-hmm.
And her not dying was such a big thing, but her completely losing everything that made her Kim Wexler was also heartbreaking.
Yeah. That first of all, quick sidebar on Rhea Seehorn. Not only give her the Emmy, but shame on the Emmy for, first of all, supporting actress. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? But also, shame on you for just recognizing this now. Late to the party, much. But Rhea Seehorn she just crushes it in this season, where you're hopeful that she's going to eventually get back on her feet, but she's got to answer for all the things that she did.
Yeah.
And regardless of how she went about doing it with Jimmy and everything like that, it doesn't change the fact that she was part of it too. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what Jimmy does in the end, is like, look, I didn't cook the meth, I didn't sell the meth, I didn't kill anyone, I didn't do anything, but I knew it was going on and I did nothing to stop it.
Well, even better than that, when he goes as far as like, Heisenberg could not have done this without me.
Yep.
Because Walt probably would have been in prison time over and over again. And him being like, I was essential to this. And that was that moment where they had just like flip of the switch in that courtroom scene, and you're just like,
yeah,
did he went there? Because that sob story he told with Marie and everybody, that Heisenberg threatened him. And what I loved about the payoff with that in this show was that on some level, I don't know, I never really, when I watched Breaking Bad, I'm like, I never saw like Heisenberg. I still just saw Walt just being this insecure, just mess of a man. But the way they talked about Heisenberg in like the last episode of Better Call Saul, I'm just like, there's there's ramifications, and like that name's gonna be known, and that just reinforces that Ozymandias episode of what's my name, and just like, Heisenberg, you're goddamn right. And I felt like that was the biggest payoff of that, because like people know who Heisenberg is, and that's going to be that way for forever. Yep. It feels like in this world. And you're just like, wow, that lasting impact. And speaking of too late to the party, I don't know. I know a lot about Oscar, like who won Oscars and stuff like that. Don't really know a whole lot about who wins Emmys and stuff. Has anybody in Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul really gotten recognized for acting?
Bryan Cranston and Aaron Paul definitely have.
Okay.
Better Call Saul, no, which is a shame.
Jonathan Banks at some point somewhere should have, and I hope he gets some kind of recognition, but he's a really unsung, like, Mike is such an important piece to all of this. And Jonathan Banks, like, I've obviously seen him in Breaking Bad, El Camino, this. Community. We got added into that one season of Community. But like, and I feel like I saw him in The Commuter, one of our lovely Liam Neeson's movies that came out on the commuter train. But like, I don't like, this feels like this is a once in a lifetime role for an actor, and he's just not gonna get any recognition for it.
No, he probably will not. Going back to what you said, Bryan Cranston won 4 times for this role. Aaron Paul won three times, and Anna Gunn, who played Skylar, won a bunch of times. So Breaking Bad is, for acting, did very well. Mm-hmm. But somehow the acting in Better Call Saul just feels like it's better. Yeah. And that there has been nothing for it. Nothing.
Because like, this had to go up against Game of Thrones at least for a while.
Well, and then last year's Emmys, it ran into the buzzsaw that was The Crown, because The Crown swept almost everything from an Emmy standpoint. Because I just did an article for Scribe about my Emmy predictions, and like doing the research, it was like, oh, like there was nothing that The Crown didn't clean up on last year. They won all the acting. They won outstanding series. And I'm curious to see if Better Call Saul is going to get its due, because I think it's unfairly, attributed. It's like this is supposed to be, the Breaking Bad stuff is not what made the show great. It's everything else. The most compelling characters were the non-Breaking Bad people. Yeah. And to even just put it on a level with Breaking Bad is one thing, but this show deserved a lot more recognition for it. And you're right. I'm going to remember much more of the moments in this. The performances in this were all outstanding. I really felt for a lot of these characters. Like you kind of waver a lot with some of the people in Breaking Bad. Like, I felt bad for Jesse maybe like 1 or 2 times during the show, but then in the back of my head, I'm like, you're still an asshole, though. Yeah. And same thing with Walt, even too. Like I think probably the thing that like got to me the most was when Hank was killed. Like, oh, that sucked a lot. And when he showed up in, I don't think it was this season, but last season, because they do a really great job when they're about to introduce somebody from Breaking Bad that you don't see them right off the bat. There's a good amount of anticipation, and they appear blurry, and then they pick the right time to introduce, like, hey, this is a person from Breaking Bad. And with him, it's just like, oh, it's you. And the fact that he was just in like 1 episode as well was like, Hank.
Oh, because I binged watched all of Breaking Bad. So like that was I never watched any of that live. I watched the last 2 or 3 seasons of Better Call Saul live. Like, I think I binged it up until Chuck's part ended and then watched it live the last 3 seasons. But like, watching Breaking Bad, I'm just like, he was one of my favorite characters. And like, he was legitimately one of the only people that had like a moral compass. And Skylar got on my nerves, Marie got on my nerves, and it's Finn, right?
Yeah.
I'm just like, I don't care.
I don't care about this. this guy at all.
And Walt
yeah.
just pissed me off after a while. And between Mike dying and just poof out of my head. But like between those two deaths in that last season, I'm just like, I wanted to like punch my fist through Walt's face.
Yeah.
At that point, I'm just like,
you suck. You suck. Yep. Yeah.
You suck. And you know what? It lost me a lot in the last season of Breaking Bad with like that like biker guys and like, God, Jesse Plemons.
Oh yeah, that was. I think that was one of the first times that I'd actually like seen him in something, and it's like, wow, you're a terrible person.
Garbage.
But then for him to like come back and like game night and everything like that, it's like, oh, this is good stuff. But anyway, yeah, that's I had completely forgotten about Jesse Plemons, and also there was a part in this last season because it's been a while since I've seen Breaking Bad, so it's not like I don't remember everything, but there's a part in this season of Better Call Saul when Saul goes, Fring's in the ground, Mike's in the ground. I'm like, shit, that's right, Mike is in the ground, isn't he? Damn it. Who's gonna take care of his granddaughter?
What's so interesting is that this last season lived in 3 different times.
Yeah.
And I felt like that was such a bold choice. And it adds so many layers to like how this story wrapped up. And just in summation, I'm gonna miss this show a lot. But this ended exactly when it needed to, how it needed to, and I can't wait to see what else they come up with.
Here's one last question for you. Is the Breaking Bad universe done?
I heard they said that it is. And I feel like they're the kind of creators that aren't gonna milk it dry. Because the Better Call Saul seemed like they were gonna milk it dry. It's like, why are we getting a spinoff of Breaking Bad like this? And no, this was definitely not.
You did it good. You did really good with this. So,
and I even like El Camino quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I feel like this would be the best time for them to just step away.
It would, but we all know that Hollywood likes to beat everything into the ground. Mm-hmm. Looking at you, Resident Evil, just continue to just beat everything into the ground
and never do anything good with it.
No, but this is a show that, or this whole universe in general, if you left it as is, this would be one of the best tandem of show/movies out there today. And there should be classes taught on this. Like, this is how you do it. All you other people who want to like create universes and things like that, take note of what they're doing and do it.
Yeah.
Like, do it your own way. Don't rip them off. But this is one where I pray to God that this is it, because these are 2 amazing shows. This universe is such a fucked up universe, but it's so good.
Yeah.
And just let it be. Like, it's kind of similar to how I feel. Like, I have very mixed feelings about, this possibly being the last season of Ted Lasso. But if they stick the landing and they just, they make a great 3-season story, fine. Like, fine. You did that. I don't need, like, I want more, but what you did was perfect. Like, just let it go before it gets bad.
Now I'm just thinking about season 3 and how that stinger at the end of season 2 just, that we're in a golden age of television. We're also in the era of like endless content.
Right.
Like every streaming service has 50 different shows coming out every week. But like I feel like AMC, so two questions. One, if they were to continue this, where would it go? Who would this like next spinoff follow?
Well, I could see two things happening with this because well, maybe three. So I guess one is to go all the way back to this company that Walter White was a part of and everything like that, and talk about, you know, we've talked about, you know, the drug game, and we've talked about, you know, the law. Now let's talk about, you know, corporate greed and everything like that. So I could see that. I could see a gritty story of the Salamanca family coming up from, you know, from where they were to be, you know, this kingpin of a drug cartel and everything like that. I could also see an instance of kind of from like a cop's point of view of all of this, how like everyone's looking to be the next Heisenberg, and what are these cops looking to do, and how, you know, there's obviously dirty cops out there, but there's a lot of cops also doing good work as well. So those are three scenarios, but that doesn't mean I want any of them.
Yeah.
I just let it be. You've got three great properties in it. That is an astounding batting average. Just
let it lie.
What do you think? Where would you want it to go?
Trying to think, because like I really liked your idea of like the Salamanca family. I feel like that's the most rich option that they would have, because like whether it's like origins of like Hector and like that kind of piece to it, I feel like they've done just enough that they need to do, but you know, with how popular he is, I could see them doing a Giancarlo Esposito doing a Gus Fring show, and I don't know how I'd feel about that, but I could see them doing it if push came to shove.
I could see that too, but you know, how did this guy get, you know, plugged into the drug trade? Like, did he own this restaurant chain before he got involved, or, you know, was he just like an up and coming gangster and everything like
Him
that?
and his partner.
Yeah, partner.
It was very obviously just his business partner.
Obviously.
Very obviously just his business partner.
The only other thing that I could see, if there's a character that I probably want more of, it's probably Mike. You know, so if we go all the way back to, you know, this might require, you know, not having Jonathan Banks in the role, because
yeah, please don't just DH him. I don't want to see an Irishman situation.
No. But just seeing that whole sequence of he's got a really, really tragic backstory, and just how does he become the quote unquote lethal weapon that he ultimately becomes in these two shows.
Yeah. And then Jonathan Banks finally gets some recognition.
Come on. Yes, give me something.
And then my other thought is, where does AMC go from here?
Well, because they are ending this and The Walking Dead. Like, despite the fact that, you know, just because they're ending The Walking Dead, it's kind of like a Hydra situation. You cut one head off, then three other three other shows come up, and
Fear the Walking Dead, Tales of the Walking Dead.
And isn't there's a third one, I think, because it's not Beyond the Walking Dead, but
might as well be. Just throw it in.
Let me see. So we have Fear the Walking Dead, World Beyond, and Tales of the Walking Dead. And the Tales of the Walking Dead one I'm reviewing for SiftPop. I'm very curious to see what that's like, because the idea of it like an anthology series within the Walking Dead universe is intriguing. But overall, where does AMC go from here? I'm very intrigued to see what they're going to do with Interview with the Vampire. If they can make good on that, that has the potential to be something else. Other than that, what else do they have going on right now? Because I watched Moonhaven. It's fine.
Yeah.
I think the other one that may have some legs is what is it? Dark Winds?
Ooh, I do really like Dark Winds.
Dark Winds was pretty good. That's got some potential as well. But AMC's sneakily got a really great chest of shows on there, and I don't know what they're gonna do from this point forward, because they've got this new streaming service and they've got to figure something else out. And I think if anything, Interview with the Vampire is probably their best bet.
Which is interesting because they have an interesting variety, because they have Sundance, Shudder, IFC, all rolled into the streaming service.
Yeah.
And it's such a bad streaming platform. They really need to fix it because it's atrocious.
Yeah.
And I really do need to look into just getting, I want to make sure that you don't lose anything out by just getting the Amazon version.
I'm wondering about that too, because they suckered me in with their Prime Day deal where they were like, hey, $1 for 2 months and then go from there. Like, okay, I volunteered like an idiot to review some things for SiftPop for a streaming platform that I don't have. So we'll see about this.
Mm-hmm.
And now that I look at what's out there, it's like I'm more interested in the older stuff than the newer stuff.
Yeah.
Like I watched This Is Going to Hurt. I thought it was decent, but that's allegedly supposed to be a limited series. And
I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
I can definitely see how it would be.
Yeah.
By the end. Also, and Kevin Can Go F Himself is like 2 seasons.
Yeah.
And that's it. So that's going to be over in like 6 weeks or so anyway.
But AMC needs to do something, because they need something, because with these two franchises, you know, The Walking Dead ending, which it's time for it to end, and then you have 3 spinoffs. You've got Breaking Bad with their 1 spinoff. It needs something, because whereas someone like FX, for example, FX has got a great chest of shows as well, and they've got a lot of great stuff in the pipe, and a lot of great stuff that they can, you know, continue to expand upon, where AMC has to kind of start over with everything. So I'm curious to see what
giving me What We Do in the Shadows and Reservation Dogs, and heck, I even watched the documentary about a Welsh football team that Mac and Ryan Reynolds bought.
That's like it's on the list. I do want to get to that, but like I don't know, like I liked most of Sons of Anarchy, and then for them to spin off to, you know, their My NMC show, that was cool. They're bringing back Justified for for a little while as well. So there's a lot of good stuff going on in FX or at FX,
Fargo.
but yeah, Fargo's great. There's a lot of great shows on FX, but yeah, AMC, they're going to be in need of a hit coming up soon, because these two are it, and
Yep.
then it's just going to go into the wasteland again until they find something. They have another one, because what we've been taught is that AMC will figure something out. They will have something. Like, I'm a little surprised *Halt and Catch Fire* wasn't as well received as it was, because it's a great show. It's really great. I liked it a lot. And I don't know, they're swinging for the fences on stuff, and it doesn't always land. So let's see what else they got.
See, but this was quite the conversation about Better Call Saul. And I hope you did not watch this if you haven't watched the show, because
this will be awkward. Then this
Yeah.
will be a little awkward.
So go watch the show and then come back and watch this episode. But Mike, thank you as always for coming on.
Appreciate you having me. Great topic, great show. I am sad to see it go, but I'm glad that it went out on a high note, as opposed to so many shows that just overstay their welcome.
And thank all of you out there for always tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.